The chronological Bible reading for May 5th is Psalms 1 and 2, 15, 22 through 24, 47, and 68. I'm pretty sure last year at this time I was thinking I need to split this up for next year's reading, and next year I'll remember to do that. Psalm 1 is the contrast between somebody who is righteous, who meditates on the law of God, and someone who's wicked and just does whatever they feel like. It's a stark contrast. Psalm 2 is prophetic about the coronation of Jesus, the declaration. It's where God says of Jesus, "You are my son. Ask of me, and I will give you the nations as your inheritance." It is bold, but I wonder what you and I should be asking of the Father. Did you know that the inheritance of Jesus, the Son, will be shared with those of us who trust in him? Will you boldly go before the throne of grace and say, "Father, give me the nations as my inheritance"? The book of James says, "You have not because you ask not." When you do ask, you ask for the wrong reasons, or you ask incorrectly, and that's why you don't receive. But when we're not focused on our own desires and our own ambition, we're not trying to prop ourselves up, but we're trying to do things to walk in the calling that he has placed in our lives. He loves to give good gifts. Are you asking him? Are you expecting him to answer your prayer? Psalm 22 was written by David 1,000 years before Jesus came. I believe it was a prophetic vision that David had. It is mind-blowing that 1,000 years before Jesus came, his ancestor David was experiencing in the spirit the things that Jesus was going through. And when Jesus was going through it, he was doing it for David. And for you and for me, Psalm 23 is one we should memorize and meditate on. If we think of worrying, if we ever struggle with the temptation to worry and not trust God, let us recite to ourselves, preach to ourselves Psalm 23. "I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely, or only goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of Yahweh forever. All my days I will dwell in your house," God. Preach it to yourself if you're prone to worry. Psalm 24 is about the King of glory. He's the one we look to. He is the source of all good things. He is the one ultimately in control. And when something is not going the proper way, we should appeal to the King of glory and say, "Can you please address this issue?" Let's focus for a moment on Psalm 15. These are the qualities that should be on display in the people of God. You and I should exhibit these qualities. This is not a condemnation for you or for me. This is an appeal of what we should strive for. And the thing is, none of these are going to happen magically or as an answer to prayer overnight. God doesn't grow character that way. He is inviting us to do the hard work of sanctification. It's called growing up. It's called maturing in the Spirit. To do hard things that only mature people do and to practice those things, to be disciplined. If you want to pray a prayer and ask Jesus into your heart, great. That's wonderful. Consider it as a start. It's the beginning of a road toward maturation. You've entered the path. Now, let's do the hard work. Who can live with God? Who can live on your holy mountain? Oh God, the one who lives blamelessly, who practices righteousness and acknowledges the truth in his heart. The one who does not slander with his tongue, who does not harm his friend or discredit his neighbor, who despises the one rejected by Yahweh, but honors those who fear Yahweh, who keeps his word, whatever the cost. How many Christians do you know who keep his word regardless of the cost? We should be a people who keep our word regardless of the cost, who does not lend his silver at an interest. We look for ways to help other people, not in order to get rich off of their need, but just to help. That is truly righteous according to this psalm, who would never take a bribe against the innocent. The one who does these things will never be shaken. If you live righteously, you will never be shaken, and you'll get to dwell in God's holy tent on God's holy mountain. Isn't that what we were invited into when we became Christ followers? To dwell with him, that he would dwell with us? It doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens when we're living in community as an imperfect person with imperfect people, and we are spurring one another on towards love and good works. And that's why we are starting an online fellowship of people for discipleship, so that we can learn and practice and spur one another on towards love and good works. We can teach each other money management and all kinds of other life skills that mature people understand and know. Christians should not be broke. Christians should not be poor. Christians should not be people who can't keep their word. Christians should not be people who gossip, who slander. Christians should not be people who can't get along with one another. Christians should not be people who choose to recluse themselves from society because they don't like people. Oh, it's easier to stay at home and not be around people. It's easier to be like the world, but that's not what we're being called to, friends. I invite you in to be part of the online fellowship that we are creating right now. I invite you to be part of this mission, changing the world, starting with ourselves and then pouring into one another to grow. Let's normalize discipleship for the glory of God, for the advancement of his kingdom, and for our own benefit as well. May he bless you as you yield to him in this. We'll see you tomorrow.